Spider-Man Homecoming. I don't know if I can think of a better name for this movie. Welcome home, buddy. Hey movie fans, so I just saw Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, I am a huge Spider-Man fan, so I've been really excited for this because I had heard good things about this going in. This was Spider-Man's first time in the MCU, well, Civil War, but this is his first standalone movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I had heard good things leading up to it, and yes, it is good. It is fantastic. It is what I wanted a Spider-Man movie to be. Don't get me wrong, I love the Sam Raimi trilogy. Amazing Spider-Man, they have their ups and downs. This right here, this is the Spider-Man I read as a kid. This is the Spider-Man I always loved. There's so much good stuff in this. It's not a perfect movie. We'll get to that. But oh, I want to talk about this movie because it made me feel like a kid again, and it's just so good. Well, we gotta start off with a big factor in this, and that is Tom Holland as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Oh my goodness, even after just one movie, he is the quintessential for both. He is Peter Parker. He is Spider-Man. He is just perfect in this role. I absolutely believe him as this weird but likable, awkward high school kid. Like, I didn't buy Andrew Garfield as a high school nerd for a second. He was too attractive for that. But Tom Holland was great. He was very much likable and just wanted to do good. He has this whole thing of, I want to help people, I want to become an Avenger. He's just really gung-ho and happy, and I like seeing a hero so energetic and innocent and just wanting to help people. It just brought him pure joy, doing these heroic things and being Spider-Man, and that joy rubs off on you. Seeing him so happy about being Spider-Man makes you so happy to see him as Spider-Man, and you're just like, that's Spider-Man. It's wonderful. He's great as Peter Parker, he's great as Spider-Man. It's just wonderful to have an actor that does the complete package. I always thought Tobey Maguire was a great Peter Parker, not a great Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield was a great Spider-Man, not a great Peter Parker. This Tom Holland is both, but every hero is only as good as his villain. And Michael Keaton as the Vulture, yes! Marvel villains up until this point have not been the best, but Michael Keaton's Vulture is definitely up there. I'd say probably Loki is still the best. This is a solid number 2. This guy's a very well-rounded villain, as well as just a great performance by Michael Keaton. He really seems to enjoy roles where he has wings. He's great in this. This character has depth. He's not your stereotypical villain. I loved him. Michael Keaton is just fantastic, but the supporting cast in this movie is just as good. Ned, Peter Parker's friend Ned, very well might be my favorite character in this whole thing. He's just wonderful. He's that goofy and awkward best friend that we all had at one point, and if you didn't, you probably were that friend. He's just wonderful. He brings a lot of comedic relief. A lot of characters bring the comedic relief, which is another positive of this film. This film is hilarious. I was just having a grin on my face the whole time. This movie flies by. I didn't think it had any pacing problems whatsoever. This movie, I actually thought it could have been longer. I was sitting there just enjoying the story being told. It was a Spider-Man world that I always wanted. I didn't think we could get. We even made Vulture look realistic, and I, reading the comics growing up, went, that's probably too cheesy to be in a movie. They somehow did Vulture justice, made him intimidating, and yet still kept the neck collar fur thingy. Speaking of side characters, there was one that I had my reservations going into, and that was Iron Man. I was worried that Iron Man would overshadow this movie. However, this is not Iron Man 4, and Robert Downey Jr. has the perfect role for this movie. I can't go into spoilers of what that is, but do not worry, Iron Man does not overstay his welcome in this. This is very much a Peter Parker coming-of-age story, which is kind of surprising to me. You spend a lot of time with Peter Parker outside of the suit, and it would really fall apart if Tom Holland wasn't so gosh darn likable. He's just wonderful in this. I really rooted for and loved Peter Parker in this, and Tom Holland was a big part of that. Iron Man has a presence, but it is a good presence that does not overshadow Spider-Man's big coming out party here in the MCU. Like I said, Homecoming is the perfect title for this film. The score also is fantastic. Michael Giacchino knocks another one out of the park. I really like his Star Trek Into Darkness score. This is even better. I grin big time like a little kid when he reads a comic book when they did the Marvel opening credits at the very beginning of the movie. I can't go into detail why, but this very well might be my favorite Marvel credits. Just the beginning. That right from the get-go, I was like, I'm gonna love this. This is wonderful. This is Spider-Man. And sure enough it was. And growing up reading the comics all the time, there's always certain moments that you wanted to play out on the big screen. Some of them we've gotten so far. There's always one, without going into detail, if you've read the comics and you've seen Spider-Man Homecoming, you know exactly which one I'm talking about, but the moment is just perfect. It's something special, something iconic to the character of Spider-Man, and I never thought we'd get it. But we did, and it was wonderful. Like the spider signal. Never thought we'd get it. We did. It's wonderful. Lastly, for my positives, I really liked how they portrayed Peter Parker's school. It didn't feel like a movie high school. It very much felt like an actual high school. These characters don't talk like high schoolers in a movie. They talk like high schoolers. I have some issue with Flash Thompson, but I get what they're going for with this version of Flash, and it kind of fits more of the modern mold. Of older Flash Thompsons was just a boneheaded football player. This Flash Thompson, I could definitely see more being in the modern high school environment than your stereotypical football jock. This Flash Thompson, I hated him, but that's only because the actor was doing his job right. So I guess in the end, Flash was pretty decent. The high schoolers were great. It felt like an actual high school, which made me get more invested in the side characters and Peter because it felt more grounded in reality, and then flying vultures show up. This movie also has plenty of winks and nods to other things, not like Amazing Spider-Man 2 where they're clearly trying to set up other things. Don't worry, there's one or two of that, but that's to be expected with any Marvel movie. There's plenty of, if you know your source material, like diehard nerds do, there's certain nods and winks that you will get, but it doesn't take away from the story. It's not distracting like it has been in like Amazing Spider-Man 2 or even Amazing Spider-Man, where it takes away from the story because it clearly is setting up something else. This is a self-contained story that hints at bigger things, but it doesn't distract from the story that they're trying to tell. It's just how Marvel does Easter eggs in general, and they do it fantastic for this. However, this movie isn't without flaws. I honestly could have seen this movie go on for a little bit longer. When the movie ended, I was like, I kind of wish this was a little bit longer, but I don't know if that's really a negative because I just wanted to be in this world more because it was fantastic and really, really well done. Other parts of this movie feel very, very convenient, like, that sure is convenient that that thing is connected with this thing, or that thing with this thing. It's really hard to go into detail without giving away spoilers, but it's very convenient to say the least. And there's certain characters that kind of pop up that I'm like, you don't really need to be here. And it's kind of weird. Like, a lot of my negatives go into my spoilers, but by and large, there isn't a lot of negatives. Any film has like plot holes or negatives. So this film by no means is perfect, but is it enjoyable? Absolutely. This is the Spider-Man movie that I've always wanted. This feels like a live action comic book come to life, just like any other Marvel property, except this time with Spider-Man, the one I've always really, really wanted. This is, as a Spider-Man fan, this just, it makes me so happy. This film makes me happy like no film I've seen in a very long time, because it's Spider-Man, and if you grew up with him, it's hard to explain. It's like Star Wars, you just can't explain it. You grew up with it, it's wonderful, and they absolutely nailed it. I'm absolutely psyched for future Tom Holland Spider-Man adventures, whether that's Homecoming 2, Prom. I'm totally calling Spider-Man Homecoming 2 Prom. You heard it here first, folks. Or Avengers Infinity War, Avengers 4, which I'm going to go on record saying it's probably Secret Wars, because they said Spider-Man Homecoming 2 takes place minutes after Secret Wars, so maybe Secret Wars and he gets his Venom suit? Maybe? As a whole, I'm really, really excited to see the future of these Spider-Man films, and I'm giving Spider-Man Homecoming an 8.5 out of 10 for just being a thoroughly enjoyable comic book movie that really, really represents the character of Spider-Man well. Well, what did you guys think of Spider-Man Homecoming? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you see and want to see more, subscribe to the channel, or find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Uncharted Media. Stay sharp, movie guys and gals!